Good. We live.
Hey, what's up, peeps? It's been a couple weeks since I've got on here and talked to y'all. Been kind of had some stuff in the works, trying to figure out how we was going to do stuff going forward, and how we was going to continue to impact, culture and society and the political, spectrum here, here in Louisville, or sorry, here in Kentucky, Louisville also. That's where we're at right now. And we got a lot of good stuff planned. So right now we're on the Way Too Much JRMC channel here. I'm here being joined with my buddy Pinky Rogers, John Pinky Rogers. He's one of my dudes from back home, one of my best friends when I was a kid, and we stayed good friends basically our entire lives. And he lives in Lexington here now, but we've been trying to build this concept of of how to like bring communities together and whatnot for about 6 months now, and then like my whole political experience kind of influenced that, and like how I think that we can go about doing it. And so we're gonna have this live stream on here today on my channel. Then we're gonna start our own. So right now we're on the Way Too Much JRMC channel. We're just gonna do a Way Too Much podcast with both of us. And so we're just doing this here today just to kind of give everybody a feel of what we got going on. So in the past, all of my live streams have been solely about Kentucky legislative updates and that kind of thing. We're going to kind of go a different route here today and kind of talk about what our goals are together in this podcast, and what we hope to accomplish and what we can hope facilitate out here in our community. And sorry, y'all hearing some banging in the background. I mean, we had to figure that part out. But
it's real life.
But so we really want to try to get focused here today on how politics should be downstream from culture, and culture shouldn't be downstream from politics. I mean, it seems to be where stuff is at right now. Is our culture is just responding to whatever our government's doing, as opposed to our government responding to what we're doing. So one big thing for us here, and as you can see, we are two totally different people here. So when you look at us, it's hard. It's impossible to think like these dudes are from the same spot, or they have like similar opinions. I mean, like you talk about hood and holler stuff. Like you're as hood as they come, and I'm about as holler looking as they come. You know what I mean? Right. And sounding. So like that's where the Way Too Much title and description comes from. Is from that, like, we know we are way too much just in the way we present ourselves as human beings and in our opinions and how we talk. And I mean, we are like every stereotype imaginable when it comes to things. And so I think 100%. It's important for people to see people of those polar opposite, stereotypes come together, and that we ain't really that different. And so just to kind of keep from myself becoming like a monologue here, I'm going to kind of start with this and let y'all know as far as like this Way Too Much podcast we're trying to do. So again, our purpose, we're trying to bring people together, all right, and then we're trying to start conversations for y'all that y'all cannot have at the jump, because y'all don't have that. You don't have that connection with someone from that other quote unquote community or background or whatever, and it could absolutely. It's just going to be real uncomfortable, and honestly would be kind of what's what I'm looking for here, inappropriate. You know what I mean? If you don't go in there with a little bit of background and like with a little bit of purpose,
or ignorant.
Yeah, it's like you don't have. It's a very inappropriate, ignorant conversation. You're just going to put yourself at risk and take a risk actually moving the conversation backwards as opposed to forwards. You know what I'm saying? And so we're trying to start that conversation for you guys. We're trying to lead with honesty, empathy, mutual respect, and most of all, just like total, utter vulnerability. You know what I mean? Like putting it all on the line, saying stuff exactly how it pops in our heads, and like be the one to say it. Somebody's got to say something the wrong way so that it can be brought back to the right direction. You know what I mean? And so we're just in a situation where we can do that without it destroying our relationship or anything like a physical altercation. You know what I'm saying? And so like
at this point anyway.
And so at this point, I mean,
35 years.
I'll whoop him though. I mean, he knows that. And so we're going to try to bring a lot of our personal experiences with one another out here, because John we're both John, but I'll call him Pink and call myself JRMC, and I'll try to not refer to myself in the first person or third person. How about that?
I might. Okay.
But like, we've lived a life together that most people haven't, and
Right.
so we've lived both lives. I've lived in black
And
culture.
apart.
He's lived in white culture. You know, we both have. He's probably actually a little more country than I am, even though he don't look it. You know, it's like as far as like what my likes and dislikes and things like that are, and just like how I connect to where I'm from and that kind of thing. So I think we can bring some value there, and we're going to try to bring in some political aspects into this and all that. So this live stream today, for all y'all that are watching, is just we're going to focus on talking about what we see the vision of this show becoming. Like I said, this won't necessarily be this channel. We're gonna have our own channel for that, and we're just using this platform for now. And then how we're gonna use that to impact our own communities from a legislative perspective, from a community building perspective, from a grassroots organization perspective, all that. So, but real quick, John, why don't you give everybody a background on who you are, real quick?
All right. Well, as he said, my name is John Rogers. Everybody probably knows me as Pink, just like the color. My grandfather gave me that name, so you can talk to them about it if you want to. They some good old gun-toting Americans. But no, we're here, man. We just want to talk to you guys today about today and going forward about trying to bring our communities together and just realize that the void isn't near as big as the one they've tried to portray to you, that they've created for you, and that they're trying to implement in your lives. That the gap is much, much smaller between the community that you live in and the communities around you. Not just black and white culture, or black and brown, or Republican and Democrat, or East Side, West Side, North Side, South Side, you West Coast, East Coast. All those things are minuscule in the end result and the scope of. We're all human beings living in a country, the greatest country on the planet. Some would argue that. I'll say it.
Black people. I don't think black people are allowed to think that it's the best country.
Well, I can say whatever I'd like, but I'm going to tell you this: I don't know too many black people that would tell you they'll move anywhere else just because I enjoy my freedoms just like they do, and unless we're all willing to fight for our freedoms and what we believe in, then we're all going to lose them. Like, and I don't mean to sit here and sound like no big chest pounding Republican, like, or nothing like that, because I'm not. I'm probably a lot more liberal than most people in the state where I live, which I don't really tag that title either. But I will stand up, and I hope everybody else will, to fight for my rights and the rights of the people that are around me that deserve them. Because when I was given my right to breathe out here by whomever it came from, some would call him God, some would call him Jehovah, some would call him Jah, Buddha. That's irrelevant to me. I don't care what you call him or who you praise, how you do it. I care about you cared about the person next to you and the person who is been helping you. People around you are helping you, whether you think so or not. Most people are not harming you, and I just want people to realize that part of it. The human nature part of it is much bigger to me and to John, and I think most people, than the politics part of it or even the socioeconomic part of it. I don't think that you could line up 100 people and ask all 100 of them 3 to 4 simple questions like, do you want to take care of your family? Do you want to be respected in your family? Do you want to be respected in your community? And do you want to be a helpful part of the community? I don't think you would get any no's.
So to me, the goal really is almost that, like, we're trying to help people find those other people.
For sure.
We live
100%.
in this world. We live in this world where, like, everyone thinks that they literally will be in their Facebook feed or Twitter feed or whatever, and like, it's like Twitter either makes you feel like everyone's just like you, or they make you feel like nobody's like you.
Oh, for sure.
Whenever
100%.
like, God's honest truth is that we're all different, and we all got some things that are the same. We all got some things that are different.
For
you know
sure.
what I mean? None of us are exactly aligned.
There's crossover somewhere.
Ideologically, spiritually, any of that. And we shouldn't want to only be surrounded by people exactly like us. You know what I mean? Like, we're on this planet for 75 years. You know what I mean? Like, if stuff ain't hard, you're not challenging yourself. Like, what's the point?
For sure.
You know, what's the point of it at that point? So, like, I do think that you hit on several good topics there. You know, like I come back to the three, I call them 3S: faith, family, freedom.
Right.
You know, like faith has become very important to me in these last couple of years through the COVID stuff and everything. Just with kids, you know what I mean? Like, just it makes you think about what's the purpose of being on this planet. You know what I mean? And then obviously family's big. I mean, familial relationships are important, and like people like us know even more so than others because we come from people talk about broken families. We come from a broken area.
Right.
Like, everything is broken down there. You know what I mean? Like, there is no consistency or fundamental foundation of like who you can rely on, who you can trust, who you can go to. Like, etc. You just gotta hope that God puts the right people in your life,
Right.
because it is just like a crapshoot. I mean, down there. You know what I mean? And so then, like, the freedom part. One thing I'm gonna always be focused on here is like, I'm not trying to decide if I'm not having a conversation if America is a good place.
Right.
That if you don't think that America is the best place on the planet in order to advance humanity,
Or yourself.
then you probably should just go ahead and turn the channel, because like we're trying to make America a better place.
Yeah, or even just yourself.
Yeah.
You're just trying to advance yourself. If it's not right for you, you have the right to leave.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Or you have the right to change what you're doing, or you have the right to, like, try something else.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the thing. Like, I think that people get lost in and forgot, but we get so busy worried about fighting back and forth about who's right, who's wrong, and where this happened and where that happened, where what happened to just fixing the issue, like we always talk about. Like, okay, we got the problem. We know the problem. We're going to fix it. We're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, like so like, I'm gonna bring like this first topic conversation home based off that. So most of y'all that are watching this right now know that I've been on a journey the last couple of months through like the Kentucky legislative process and trying to get bills filed and all that stuff. But what you just said is what I see as the biggest hindrance to cultural, advancement or individual advancement, whatever you want to call it, in our country right today is we are all problem identifiers.
For sure.
We are not problem solvers.
100%.
Because it takes a lot of effort to do that. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, it takes a lot of effort to sit down and first examine our own opinions, do the research, then adjust our opinions accordingly, and then try to figure out how to implement strategies to better things on an individual level, on a household level, on a neighborhood, community, and extrapolate that out. That takes a lot of work, and there ain't no time for Netflix and none of that. You know what I'm saying? So
And
it's
you
like,
have to be challenged in there somewhere.
yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? You have to give your idea to someone or to some other control to let it be challenged and bucked at to see if it stands up and it's even worthy of holding on to.
Exactly. Yeah, and then when it's not, you got to cast it out, and that's tough. And so I've been on this journey of getting to know all these legislators, and literally went from being someone I thought was engaged to learning like, holy cow, like I don't really know nothing. You know what I mean? I'm out here arguing about how I support like Trump this, Trump that, but like Trump in the scheme of things ain't really got no impact on my day-to-day life, nor should he.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I'm like, dude, I'm actually one of the problems in this world, and I think that's most of us, and I think that's a good starting point for everyone. Is like, let's all start from that assumption that like, okay, up until this moment, we've been one of the problems. Let's try to be part of the solution. You know what I mean? And like try to get smarter and try to grow our own understanding of things and move forward from there. And some of us, it may lead to us doing a podcast. It may lead to us writing legislation. Others, it may lead to nothing more than like being able to have 2 or 3 conversations throughout the year that helps one other person change their opinion, and you don't even realize that they did. And so like everyone's gonna have their own role to play. It might lead to some people being governor. You know what I'm saying? And so like but in the scheme of things, we're a country of individuals,
Absolutely.
and like the show is centered on this country of individuals and not like the world the world of individuals. We're trying to we need to make America a better place, and the better America is, the better the world will be, because that theoretically. But it's just it's such a grand thought. We can't even worry about that. Yeah, I mean, we got to worry about making this conversation better.
I think America might be a little.
America's probably too big. Yeah, no.
I'm thinking like Kentucky.
Kentucky, yeah. I totally agree on that.
But,
I'm just trying to make
you're
sure.
right though, 100%.
Trying to make sure people know, like, we are coming at this from one thing me and John are always on the same page about is we're like, we love where we're from. We love who we are. We love the country we live in, and we love the opportunity and the thought and the promise of opportunity that this country is supposed to be about, and it hasn't lived up to that all along the way.
Idea.
But we are trying to advance that thought and move it in the right direction to where more opportunities are more available for more people, and this is the best place to make that happen. So that's the number one thing I want to make sure people know. With that being said, the setup of what we're going to try to do, we do plan on trying to get some. We want to do interviews, and we're going to have one-on-ones. We're going to do interviews with, hopefully with local people, local politicians, local cultural players, activists,
Yeah.
but people that we're really trying to go after people that would at first sight at least be the opposite or be different from one of us. So it may be like there may be one day somebody comes on and like I look like I'm the odd man out, and that's what we're trying to do, because we're at a point now to where if we don't start. Let me back up on this. So when I was in Frankfurt, one of the biggest things I saw was the gap between the haves and the have-nots and people from backgrounds of having and not having.
Right.
And like it wasn't a Republican Democrat thing.
Right.
So like I was like, oh my gosh, if I have any value down here, it's that I can talk to these people. And so I was going and talking to legislators that everyone thought I shouldn't be talking to, whether it be like, reps from up here in Louisville that were of a different race and a different party affiliation, or if it was, someone that was from like a higher socioeconomic class than I historically came from, whether it be somebody from the equestrian class or whatever is what we'll call them here in Kentucky, the horse breeding class.
Right.
And so that's one of the primary tenets is trying to bring on people to have conversation with, and whether it be through interviewing or just ever how you want to look at it. You know what I mean? So it's not
maybe
obviously
just them coming on, and I mean, you were talking about Miss Attica Scott. Maybe she'll come on one day and she'll just give us an hour on what she's planning on doing. You know what I'm saying? So we'll sit and we'll listen, and we'll take in what she has to say. We'll ask questions. Or what's your guy's name? Rivas, is that his name?
Nemus. Jason Nemus up here.
You know what I'm saying? Any of these people, any of the people that want to come by, give your spiel.
Mm-hmm.
We'll ask some questions. If y'all want to give us some questions, ask them. I don't mind asking.
Yeah, no, I mean definitely make it. We won't. That was another thing. When I was doing going down there and trying to push these certain bills and like giving people the information. My goal was to like not make it about me. I was trying to give other people information and like be as transparent as possible, and that made a lot of people uncomfortable because they see being transparent and putting yourself out there to be vulnerable to maybe looking like you were wrong as a problem, so they want to vet everything first.
Right.
And I'm like, but then people don't know. Then people begin over time to think that things just happen. It's like from nothing to something instead of like, okay, no, it was nothing and it was wrong, and then we got it. You know what I mean? And like, here's the trial and error everyone went through. You know what I mean? Like,
it's easier to trust someone when you know that they're able to be wrong and able to correct themselves than it is to trust people who just assume they're right, so they don't even ask you for your opinion.
Yeah, and you can still value yourself
for sure,
even if you're wrong all the time, because like the quest for truth requires you to be wrong.
Be wrong all the time.
Like your goal should be, I want to be as wrong as possible all throughout the day, so that I can go to sleep more right.
Yeah, you learned a lot.
You know what I mean? And so like, that's funny you bring up. So when we're talking about political people. That when we talked about this concept, we've been talking about it since like September, October, I think.
Yeah,
Pam Stevenson from up here in Louisville was one of the people that everyone, not everyone, but a lot of people didn't think I should even be talking to Democrats about what we were trying to do. And I went and had a conversation with her, and the conversation I had with her just basically reaffirmed how necessary the concept of what you and I are trying to do is, because I feel like that's why it seems like America's kind of plateaued, because we have more access to people than ever, more access to information than ever, and what we're actually all we're doing is filling up more and more of our time of the same thing
and spreading apart from each other.
Yeah, we are looking for, we go and just try to, confirmation bias or whatever. We just try to find things that we agree with, and then continue to reinforce the fact that there's no way the other party have anything of value. And so, my conversation with her was just so I left there feeling like I had just it was possible to change the world. Right. You know what I mean? And we didn't even get into any real issues. You know what I mean? We talked about some stuff, but it was just like such a personal experience, and such like a, I don't say not transcending, I'm trying to think of the word that would be right, but I just left there feeling so valuable as an individual, and it was someone that like other people think we probably do disagree on a lot. She's a Democrat, you know what I mean? But like she didn't, again, see what I look like. I would have to work hard to convince you that I was a liberal. If I was a liberal, you know what I'm saying? Even if I was, they would still be thinking I was a Republican. So like,
I don't know if I agree.
So like, but the fact that she gave me the time of day, and she gave me as much time there for that meeting, and was just so open and transparent with me, I was just like, man, we need more of this. You know what I mean? Like, and then we go get into the bill I was pushing, and the Democrats really didn't. It passed out of the House, and none of the Democrats stood up and went against it. You know what I mean? They didn't vote for it. Actually, one of them didn't vote at all. That I thought was a hard no beforehand. But they get up and grandstand all the time and like kind of what we call a filibuster or whatever. They stand up and they kind of bloviate on why they're against something or why they're for it, and none of them did that. And like I don't want to act like that was just because of me, but I think those conversations definitely impacted that being the case, because it changed the conversation about what I was trying to do and what the movement was trying to do that was talking about that bill. Right. You know what I mean? And so
made it a little more personal.
So with that being said, we are going to try to focus on certain topics, and some of them we may be able to do it in one episode. Other ones, in most of these, I think it'll honestly play out. It'll probably be never ending. You know what I mean? Yeah, as we see other people that have something good to say about it, or something to add to it. But we wrote down some things. So I think for me and John both, so I have 4 kids, 2, 4, 6, and 8. John's got, how many kids you got?
4.
He's got 4 kids. 5 kids.
Don't let me get that right.
Listen, so you don't know how many you got. I don't know none of mine's birthdays. I don't know none of mine's birthdays or nothing. So we're both bad human beings for something here. You what?
We got a grandbaby.
We ain't talking about that. I can't be talking about you being a grandfather. But for John and I both, like, education is a huge issue.
Sure.
And the umbrella into that was going to include like parental choice, parental empowerment, parental rights, parenting in general.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like how
mental health.
This is something we hadn't talked about before. Like how our cultures parent differently.
Oh, for sure.
And if you step into that world from one of the other worlds, it looks. I mean, it can be like you're stepping back into the Stone Ages in some instances. Sure. You know what I mean? And like. But people, you can't know what you don't know. So just being exposed to it some will make it less like shocking when you encounter it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And like you have to encounter it to be able to, from a political standpoint, to be able to legislate effectively. You have to encounter these things that you're supposedly trying to legislate. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And so that'd be probably the biggest thing. And in Louisville right now, it's a huge deal because we have 4 of our 7 school board seats are up for election in November, and like we need people that, because this is another thing that I hope to do. Right now, we go out and try to find politicians, right, that like we agree that like we agree with enough to vote for.
Right,
we got to flip that. We got to know
people.
We got to know what we want.
Right.
And then go to people and say, do you believe these things? If you don't, move on down the road. You ain't getting my vote. Yeah, I mean, and so
get behind that.
That's something like I think I really like to talk about eventually. Is like one thing I know that I'm very interested to talk about more is like the Democratic stronghold on the black community.
Well, I'm definitely willing to
and I definitely want to go into detail on that. Maybe we can go into some of the historical parts of that in one episode or something. But like the fact that because it's also a thing where we come from, the white people there are also historically been huge Democrat supporters, regardless of how it like, especially on a state level. You know what I mean? And so like whether it be coal miners, teachers, state workers, that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Right. So those are historically Democrat like voters. Just go watch The Wire, and all the union reps are Democrat people, and what I mean, they try to force people to vote Democrat, and so I think I'm very interested in talking about that. But like the parental empowerment thing that continues to be something that's dividing people. Whatever, I'm like really. I don't know anybody that ever disagrees with that when we talk about it. But what's your thoughts on that?
I was just going to say, to take one step back to the black vote thing. I'm definitely here to talk about using your vote, like just as a black person, because I don't think it's talked about enough. I don't think it's done enough, and I think it's just because we feel like most of the time it just doesn't fucking matter. No one cares. You know what I'm saying? It's a lot of that. It's a lot of access. It's a lot of things, but it's definitely something that needs to be talked about.
Well, but I think it also comes back to like, again, I'm not trying to make this super political off the jump. I'm trying to get people to listen to what we're saying, but it goes back to that Joe Biden statement during the presidential campaign was like, if you ain't voting Democrat, you ain't black. I mean,
that's moronic.
But it's like that really is the way that they look, the way that like the white Democrat politicians look at it. Like they just assume I'm getting the black vote.
Oh, I agree.
No matter what.
I think, but see, like when you said about people where we're from voting Democrat, like I would think they think the exact same way about like people in Bell County. No one thinks that they're voting Democrat. Those people think that all those coal miners that are voting Republican no matter what. All the people that are in Eastern Kentucky and that are poor and that actually need food stamps and shit, where we actually have like the highest food stamp rates like in the whole country. Like those people don't even vote for like the people that are trying to give them more assistance. They vote against it, which makes no sense to me. Like what I was saying about the whole thing, what I was actually going to say originally was the vote thing. I want to talk about people voting for what's their best interest, like what you were saying before.
And
like,
the individual.
Quit thinking about. I mean, it's going to sound terrible, but it's just the truth. Because I'm definitely more social in this aspect.
Just say it, dude.
No, this is true. It's you should like it's hard to make a decision based on like 200 million people. You know what I'm saying? And that definitely ain't my job. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's definitely not my job. And it shouldn't be anyone's job, really. You know what I'm saying? Because if that was the case, we would just have a king. You know what I'm saying? Like it should.
Well, it seems like we're heading in that direction. That's kind of the conversation right now. Is like we're literally arguing ideologically of like should we have centralized power, or do we want only the centralized power that's most necessary, and then leave the rest of it to the individuals? That's we're literally back to like 1776 type stuff.
Oh, for
in our politics.
Well, that's because we have the oldest written constitution amongst modern countries. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just the facts are the facts.
One thing's are cyclical, you know what I mean?
Like, that's just the truth. Like, if you go look at any other modernized society, like they have a newer constitution than the one we have, even though we're probably the youngest country, of most of those. You know what I'm saying? We have the oldest constitution. Now, am I saying that's the biggest problem? No, I'm not. But it is a problem. You know what I'm saying? And it doesn't even, that's not me saying we need to go rip up the Constitution and make like a new one. You know what I'm saying? But it is me saying that what happened 400, 600 years ago, whatever, you know what I'm saying? And even 100 years ago, you know what I'm saying? Some of that ain't pertinent anymore. You know what I'm saying?
I think so. Like, I think
some of it is. Some of it isn't.
So you and I have talked about this before. Here's what I'll say about that. And this is some other shows we plan on doing. We've talked about going back and doing constitutional,
for sure,
Bill of Rights shows and going in detail on them and having a bigger conversation. One other thing that's very important to us is is prison reform and judicial reform.
Yeah.
And I think that will play into what you're talking about there more of. So it's if we go and look at the Constitution and what the Constitution says,
right.
I don't think that's where the problem lies. I think the problem is lying in all these. Now, in order to get back to what the Second Amendment says, we're going through 3,500 judicial cases and judicial opinions before we get to that, and saying okay, well, this amendment was 2 sentences long. How do we have 4,500 pages of it? So I think that's something we will discuss.
Yeah, for sure. That very well may be the problem. It may be a problem that it was fine the way it was, and then you throw a layer of lettuce on, tomato, onion, mustard, ketchup.
Now you got a sandwich you can't get your mouth over anymore.
Nobody knows what it tastes like.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You don't know what you're tasting. You're just biting into something that's just it fills you up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It gives you nutrients, but you don't even know what you're eating now.
And we really hope to get into that nitty gritty. That might be boring to some people, but here's the deal. I talked about at the beginning, this ain't gonna be easy.
No.
These conversations aren't easy. We're talking about big
Some
deal,
are even gonna be good.
big deal topics and things that might take months
right.
to really play out and get the right people on to give us the information, and to come back to the importance of this show, because again, that's what this is, an intro show is what we're doing right now. It's
right.
I've looked and researched as much as I can. There is no show out there that I've found where there are people that came from nothing to start their show, but there is zero shows. Go out there, just I was Googling black versus white podcast and different cultural background podcasts about different cultural background hosts or whatever, and there's none.
Right.
So there's nothing out there where two people that look so much different and that spark such a difference of opinions.
Right.
And and there's no show where the two people in there that are less relevant,
right,
but as relevant as possible out there, because we are normal people.
Right, for sure.
You know what I mean? We have no so we're gonna need people to you're talking about comment and like and subscribe and all that stuff, because if the people don't get behind us, people won't come on and talk to us.
For sure.
You know what I mean? They won't have a reason, and so that alone is proof that we're trying to do something different, because we're trying to be vulnerable here, because we could very easily look stupid.
Right.
You know what I mean? And this would be nothing, a big nothing burger or whatever. You know what I mean? And
sure.
so we got education. Also, we hit on prison reform. A big conversation is going to be about this breaking down of the labelization. Let's call it the labelization of America. So kind of like the tribal nature, Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, all this stuff. And this is something I realized when I was going there and pushing. So the bill everyone will remember is HB 51. That was the student medical freedom bill. The terms mask and vaccine and quarantine, these were just hot button terms that we were allowing the media to define and make these things politically divisive, and then we were choosing to continue to use them whenever there's nothing that says we have to keep using these words.
Right.
And so when we wrote that amendment to that and got it filed, that was a big focal point for me. It was hey, we can say masking, or we can say quarantining or testing, whatever, inside these definitions, but the primary terminology, we got to change it. So it's that's what we changed from masking to forced use of protective medical devices,
how I feel about
and that kind of thing. And so there's so much stuff, when we get into education, talking about critical race theory and all that, hopefully along the way we can figure out ways to
alleviate some of the stress of the conversation.
Yeah, and what makes it hard to for a black person to be able to support CRT legislation, because let's be honest, if you go to church and everyone around you thinks that word means one thing,
right,
and you're saying you're supporting that, you're putting a lot of not just pressure on yourself, but a lot of like now you're becoming a champion for that. And if you don't, you can do more harm than good because you don't know how to. You don't know if you don't know how to explain it thoroughly, but you know, okay, well, I'm inclined to think that they're trying to do something good here.
Right.
If you can't back that up and you're latching onto that term in your black church, then you may actually make it harder for the person that is informed on the issue to convince people of it because you aren't representing it the right way. So, but if we start these new terms where there's no preconceived notion about the terminology, we can all be more vulnerable about it.
Absolutely. You know how I feel about the terminology thing. I believe that words move the world in the current, and it can change the current. So, I'll just speak on the CRT one. When speaking on that, there shouldn't be any real legislation, in my opinion, about CRT. Period, because it's not something that should even be of education to people who aren't at will to it. You know what I mean? Like, if you're in college, you want to take it? Sure. You know what I'm saying? First off, it's a practice and a technique. So that's why you have to be careful with your language.
Yeah, so just to back up what John is talking about here, what Pink's talking about is critical race theory is a thing.
For sure.
Like it's an actual like a collegial or whatever like discipline. You can study this.
100%.
And that, even though there are like what is happening in our elementary schools may be a direct descendant from that.
Absolutely.
Like we're making it confusing.
It's the same thing we were talking about.
We're making it confusing.
Oh, I forgot they weren't watching us, or we weren't live yet. Is that the complications of the language is the problem with a lot of these things that are going like, oh, I remember what it was we were talking about. We were talking about the BLM, Black Lives Matter, and how one thing becomes another thing and becomes another thing, and then before you know it, you turned what was once a simple egg that you had in your hand that you were just holding there. Now it's a dragon, and it's unleashed, and it's burning down buildings and things.
Yeah, that's such a good visual.
Because
when we post Mike,
it's gone.
We need to go in and post that episode with Mike because it was a perfect example of. So we have a buddy named Mike Howard, and dude's like a freaking genius. All right, like, but again, he's one of these dudes. When you look at him, all y'all white people, y'all ain't gonna admit it, but you look at him and be like, "Oh, this dude's hood. He ain't got no. He's stupid." You know what I mean? And he's like one of the smartest people I've ever met. Right. I mean, like I remember going back to even in
people
school.
Have preconceived notions.
Yeah, and so like again, that's what I hope this show can do. When this stuff comes on, when people come on, I want us to immediately address those things. Say, all right, white people, here's what I know you're thinking right now, or black people, here's what I know y'all are thinking about this dude we just brought on right now. Right. Let's go ahead and get this. Let's get it out in the air.
I have no problem with doing that.
Like,
you know me.
Yeah,
like, For me, I feel like that should be 100% unnecessary. But I understand what you're trying to do and what we're trying to do with it. So I get it. You know what I'm saying? I just want everybody to understand that, like, it doesn't have to be that way. Like, it shouldn't have to be that. We shouldn't have to do this.
We shouldn't have to do it.
We shouldn't have to do that.
But we got to do it.
But we have to do it. We shouldn't have to bring people on here and point out what y'all would consider flaws or preconceived notions about people because I have dreads, or because maybe I'll be in here smoking a joint one day, or because I'm drinking bourbon right now, or things like that, or because he's got a beard and long hair and talks like a redneck and shit, you know? Like, who cares about those things? Should not matter. What should matter is, are you a good person? I think you're a pretty good person.
You have good intentions.
You know
Are you trying?
You take care of your kids?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Are you trying to be a good husband or a good wife? Are you? And if you are, kudos to you. If you're not, then go be a bad person somewhere else with other bad people. There's plenty of other people out here who want to deal in your BS.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, then deal in your BS with other people. That's fine. But the people that want to have a real conversation and who want to build a real community and who want to talk about furthering, progressing.
Something happened over here.
Something did happen, didn't it?
You keep talking. I'll try to fix it.
I think we might have lost video, but that's all right. I'm going to keep talking to you. to the people that want to continue that conversation, the conversation of progress, protection, the conversation of thriving here in a country that was built on the backs of the people who live here and the backs of the people who have came here, which is all of us, then we can have that conversation. And for everyone else, I mean, in my opinion, I don't know how John feels about it, but those people can just like go jump in a pool. Like I don't really care what you have going on with your life. But here we're trying to have a conversation about of thriving here. I'm hearing myself back talking now. Like I can hear the recording. Who live here and the backs of
Like
the people who have came here.
Yeah, I can hear the recording playing in my back.
Then
I think this might.
It just went off, man.
I know what happened. This right here just went dead. Just keep talking while I'm gonna fix it.
oh, okay. Sorry, we got some technical difficulties here, y'all. It's part of it. It's just how it's gonna go. I'm gonna try to keep y'all entertained for a few minutes while John Ross does his thing here. But yeah, just back to what I was saying. This show is about bringing people together, not pushing people apart. 100%. And if at any point during this show that you, the people, feel differently, I want you to write in, comment, let us know where we're going wrong so we can correct it. You know, any kind of disagreements you have are very welcomed. You know, preferably, I'd like to keep it civilized, but I'll be the first to admit that I'm a human being. So if you want to get a little uncivilized, I am from Bell County. You know what I'm saying? I seen the YouTube video. How's it go? 606, by God.
I'll be back. All right, fellas. Sorry about that. We back. I think our battery went down on there.
It's
So
just we're here, man. Like I said, like John said, these conversations are to build better, stronger black communities, white communities, brown communities. I'll say it. Hell, I ain't scared. Yellow communities, green, blue. I don't care where you're from, what you're doing. If you're here and you want to help out yourself first, as we said, as individuals here, yourself first. Be an individual, and then you want to help out some other people too. This is the place to be, because I firmly believe, and I think you'll back me up on this, the first man in the mirror type of ideology.
yeah.
Like if you want to change some shit. I mean, I ain't trying to be corny and be like quote Michael Jackson, but if you want to change some shit, take a look. Look at yourself, see what you can do. You know what I'm saying? See what you can fix, and then go out and see if you can learn something else and help yourself, help somebody else.
Well, look, I mean, I think that's the big thing. Is like, if at any given day you're like if you lay your head down to sleep at night and you just you're feeling some certain type of good way about yourself, like you probably didn't do something right that day. You probably need to re-examine, like, was I actually as good as I thought I was? Like, what do I need to get better at the next day?
I think it just depends on what you're feeling good about.
And so, but like, that's something so self-confidence and motivation, that's something we also will hope to to discuss, because you're always messing with me on that about how, like, I'm always bringing up my self-confidence issues and my daddy issues, and again, I think it's
all valid points.
It's gonna be something that's gonna be important for people to see as well, because that's another stereotype that you and I break down is supposedly it's like the black dude thing's supposed to have the dad. You know what I mean?
Right.
And in our relationship, it's like maybe your father wasn't the best dad on the planet, but he was a dad. He was a normal, like what I would think of as like an American dad. You know what I mean?
Right.
And like, you don't have those same issues. And like here I am, I'm the white dude, and I'm the one with like the dad that died of a drug overdose and was never around, like left me and my mom high and dry. I was never under the same roof as him. Like when I would go to his house for a weekend, he'd live with 4 generations of family, and he'd leave to go to the off track. Leave me at the house with my stepmom.
Hang with my Uncle Joe if he was at the off track.
Whole time, you know what I'm saying? So like we actually flip flop things there, and like I think that can help ease some tensions on stuff on that. So and then so we got the education stuff. We got focus on the individuals, not the institutions. Breaking down labels, having interviews, stuff like that with people. We're also hoping to get back to really digging into, because we don't have a great civics, programs at our school anymore talking about like just constitutional rights, free speech, like legislative process, like the realities of our political landscape,
like real ethics,
like real political ethics, real like individual ethics, how individual ethics differ from what you can expect from your government.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? Like,
not the same.
but really, like, it's like suppose this is this is almost like, I don't want to come off like I'm too. We're looking at it from like a ground up. You know what I mean? Like people talk about trickle down economics. I don't really know how I feel about that. I don't know if that works or not, but I do know if you start at the bottom as an individual and take care of yourself and try to become a better person, your children will become better people. Your spouse will become a better person. Then your extended family becomes better. Your church becomes better. Your community becomes better, and so we can work ground up. You know what I mean?
I understand what you're saying, and I'll be the first to admit as well. Trickle down economics, not my specialty. Don't know much about it at all. But I will be the first to admit to you, and I agree with you, foundational values, like individual human values, can't be, you can't go wrong there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to make a better world, then the first thing you better do is make better people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And right now, we're not doing a good job of defining those terms.
Oh, we're not
and
even doing a good job
like
making people at all.
And then giving people a rubric. You know what I mean? Like we've already taken the Bible away from people. We've taken, what's the Muslim, the Quran, like the Torah, like all those books are things that like if you especially but it's like what I would know.
Those are books of value.
I know the Bible better than I would than these other ones. But like if you live by those tenets, you live a better life. You know, I don't think anybody can deny that. You know, and we want to give people,
and neither more than the other. I'll just like put that out there, just because. I mean, if you want to take the Bible and the Quran and put them side by side, you're going to find very, very few differences. You know what I'm saying? The differences that are going to be in there are going to be very. I'm not going to sit here and try to quote any of those, and I'm not trying to like make like a
go that direct,
like
yeah.
a religious stance here, because
Mm-hmm.
me personally, I'm neither.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I just want to make sure that everyone out there understands that people of all faith, denomination, political party, everything is welcome in this space.
Well, hey, listen, we live in a country of...
And it's a space of, I don't want, combating is not the word, but a space of conversation. Like, it's a space to bring your conversation to. So if you don't understand, like you said,
a real conversation is hostile, bro.
You had to ask me about what the Muslim
book was, whatever. Yeah,
I can't think of the word, but the Muslim book. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's okay that you have to ask. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's not your responsibility to know because you're not a Muslim.
Yeah.
You know
well, look, and we live in a country of 310, 20 million people, legal, citizens.
With lots of different religions.
If our value system can't extrapolate, then how are we going to effectively move forward as a society? You know what I mean? And so I think that's why you got to start small and work bigger. I think you said it right. Like I was talking about national and America. Like we really got to worry about Kentucky first. You know what I mean? And see how Kentucky, and then we can move into that. How does Kentucky fit into the larger conversation? But if we worry about Kentucky, then if push comes to shove, and we just like, all right, we don't get along with anybody else anywhere else, we can stay in Kentucky. You know what I mean? And so like I think there's that. But then my experience these last couple months in Frankfurt is just one thing that's became so apparent to me, dude. Is just that we don't really have any idea how anything works. We think we do. You know what I mean? Like, we think that we like have a pulse on things, but like we have so many misperceptions about the process and like the resources that our elected officials have, what they need from us. You know what I mean? And like, there's so many things we can do. And I think that if there's one thing that right now that I know I can help people with in this regard is like to help people learn how to engage in it. You know what I mean? 'Cause I don't think right now any group of people is telling people the correct way to engage in our government. It's like we're just trying to inflame passions, and like
Right, exactly.
we're trying to like
100%.
like we have all these activists, but really all activists do is piss off the other people. And anytime you need activists, it's because the majority of the decision makers are of the opposite viewpoint.
Right.
So no matter if you are if right now if you're like one of these We the People.
And what are you an activist of? Because are you an activist of destruction, or are you an activist of change?
See, right now I think everybody.
I think everyone's an activist of destruction.
I'm gonna write that down. Like, are you looking for change or destruction? Because I think right now
Most people are
I look around and I see even people that think they're about positive change. I'm like, your tactics. You ever watch Talladega Nights?
Yeah,
It's like,
sure,
I'm gonna keep acting this way because I'm gonna share your tactics. How John C. Reilly says that. But it's like our tactical approach is just so combative, and it's and I experienced in my time down there because of what I looked like, sound like, all this stuff. There was people that I knew were in my camp on my side of things, just assumed that I was going to be like that because people were from
or that way.
Whether if you're black, if you're poor, white, whatever, it's like they just think we can't act but one type of way. That's all. That's the only way it could be, right? And like, I must be throwing people under the bus and all stuff. And I'm like, no, I'm actually down here because I care. I want things to get better. And if like I have to swallow my pride to make things a little better for my children, I'm willing to. I got to be willing to do that, or I got to get the heck out. I got to get the heck out of the way.
I agree with that, and I'll say this. Another thing with that too, though, is the fact that the people in Frankfurt need to also understand that the way they do things ain't how we do things in the real world.
Nope.
You know what I'm saying?
I got so tired of hearing that.
Like sometimes you got to have an argument with somebody to get your point across.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it got to be a little hollering, a little screaming, maybe an elbow thrown in the basketball game.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So that after the game, y'all can both shake hands, suck it up like men or women or whatever you'd like to be called. You know what I'm saying? And you move along with sportsmanship and a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of knowing that the world also pushes back.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? You need that. You need sometimes if you're a married man, I'm a married man. Sometimes you need your wife to push back on you sometimes. Sometimes you're looking for it, and when she doesn't push back, you get a little upset. And you're wondering, like, wait a minute. Hold on. Wait a second. Like, she was supposed to give me a little pushback there. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because as humans, I mean, first off, we're just overgrown, a little more intellectual animals. So you have to know that when not given resistance, just like anything else in the world, you'll always overshoot your mark.
Yeah.
Always. So even if you have good intentions like what you're talking about, and you come in with a tactic shooting for a prize, if you're shooting that tactic out a little too far, you threw the reel out a little too far, missed.
Well, they say the road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Yeah, for sure it is.
100% on that. So there's that, but again, like, so the legislative process, we have so much to talk about on the legislative front, and that's something we can get. I'm sure in some of these shows that we do together, we'll have a bill we're talking about or whatever.
Right.
I know I'm going to do a lot of that myself, but like, again, one thing that I'm telling people when I was doing these live streams about the bills we were pursuing down there, and people were like just thanking me and coming up to me and just like so like give me so much praise, and almost like those times where I was like felt like a little bit of a famous person when I'd go to certain places. I was like, man, I can't imagine what it actually meant to be famous. But like, if the people ain't in support of you, what I did and the success I had yes, I played a part in it, but had real people not been connecting, had the message not been connecting me to them in that building, and like the people I was talking to would be like, okay, well, yeah, this dude looks crazy, and he talks crazy, and talks fast, and talks loud, and all this stuff. He's very emotional. If it wouldn't have been connecting with something that like people in their community were saying, they would just cast me aside. But because we were echoing one another, you know, and so like I think that's one big thing. That's why I think people like Joe Rogan why his podcast is so big is he echoes especially what men culture is thinking. But like along the way, we need buy-in from you guys in our community so that we can hopefully get people on to interview people like whether it be politicians or educators or activists or whatever, like. Because we aren't rich people, we are not famous individuals. We are trying to do something different that no one else has done before. I mean, like, I don't know if anyone else has ever done it. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
We're really putting our success on the line for we think people care more than the media give them credit.
Well, y'all have no idea I don't want to sound. Y'all have no idea how normal we actually are. I don't think y'all are probably looking at this podcast. You're like, these guys, put this nice little studio together. They're like, we're just regular people, just like you are, trying to make a difference. And we got a little window here. We got a little avenue. John's been up in Frankfurt. I've been all over the country. I know there's going to be people watching this all over the place. Detroit, Miami, Vegas, New York City, Chicago, Philadelphia. Shout out all y'all. Houston, Texas. And I just want everybody to understand where we're coming from on this. And what he's saying is we need y'all to give us any kind of momentum. We have zero momentum. We're nobodies. Like we're out here doing what y'all are doing. Working day jobs, taking care of kids, wiping snotty noses, and tying shoelaces at football practices, and
doing bath times, and
ballet lessons, and I'm getting my fingernails painted by my granddaughter, and regular stuff like y'all are,
We're coaching. I mean, I coach all kinds of sports, but like.
There leaves time for the conversation.
I was getting a lot of pushback because in my videos, I don't know if you've watched all those little ones I did. I would call myself a nobody and all that. We're saying what we're saying about each other, not to like denigrate ourselves or like act like we don't have value. We're trying to like hit you in the face with what we're trying to do, and like we can't keep saying that we don't want people that are like bought and paid for by lobbyist groups and corporations. We can't keep saying we don't want these people as our leaders if we're not willing to self anoint our own leaders,
right?
And like get behind them and like put our credibility on the line with them,
right? Truth is all there,
And so like it's like who knows what this turns into? Maybe it turns into nothing, It's like, but I've already seen how quick it is for people. Like as soon as you start getting any momentum, people want you like to like run for office and all stuff, and I'm like. This thing's just getting started. We don't know who the best, like, this is a conversation that nobody's having. You know what I mean? And so, like, we may get left behind in it all. And that's fine. Sure. As long as the thing takes off. As long as it takes off, that's fine. We can keep doing we can keep doing our little podcast with 50 subscribers. You know what I mean? Like, whatever.
That's what I was going to say.
But, like, we need people. But it's like, you get into power one or two ways. You're either bought for by Purdue Pharma. You know what I mean? Like, and we got plenty of people like that in our state legislature. Or you're, like, funded by, everyday individual people. And by, like, funding, I don't mean money. I mean, like, I'm talking about, like you said, like, momentum, emotional support, emotional, like,
good ideas.
Like, good ideas.
Good ideas rule the world.
Like, feedback.
Willingness to work,
constructive criticism.
Yeah.
Like we're either going to be a We the People, movement, and I think it only also, but it's like I also think it only works if we bring all the people to the table that are having the same conversation,
right?
That just aren't willing to realize they're having the same conversation. I mean, I do think we all
to get to that point though, we need all the people who think that they're having different conversations.
Yeah, and
that's why we need y'all.
Yeah. Like,
Not to
if there's,
cut
if
you
there's
off,
no,
you
it's
can
perfect. If
jump,
there's
but yeah,
people that y'all
but that's
think
it.
that y'all are like, man, I think I know somebody who's like saying the same stuff. Shoot us their name, shoot us their contact information. You'll get us. Let's get together.
Sure.
Let's get together for them for coffee, lunch, whatever, and talk about some of this stuff. And like get on camera, people. Like our legislators. I'm gonna like my goal. Here's one of my things is all along the way of this thing of my last 2 months journey. It was like John Cox was doing something when it wasn't what was happening. You know what I mean? Like, but I realized along the way that I wasn't like, if I was anything, I was an idea,
Right.
and like we got to take stuff to people and hold our legislators and people like that accountable by working backwards into the solution instead of finding the person and then taking whatever their strong suits are. You know what I mean? Like, so politicians, like, hopefully this thing goes in a certain direction where we can help get people that fit our message, help them get their face out there, because we're going to make sure the message gets out.
Right.
We need it connected with a face, with other faces, not
Make
one, not one face or 5 faces. We need a bunch. We need 25,
army.
50, an army of faces. You know what I mean? And so,
Sure.
but again, unless you are willing to tell the people you support, like, hey, you need to go on this person's show, or you need to call and have this conversation, or if this
They're
person,
willing to talk.
like, you know, but they're not going to talk to us because unless they're getting pressure from the community, because it's not the current power paradigm. You know what I mean?
Oh, no, I mean we're willing to talk. That's
no, exactly.
That's
That's
what
I'm saying.
I meant. Yeah, tell them to come on the show.
I do know we got people that are willing to talk, and like I'm gonna be talking to them, and hopefully some of these legislators I've gotten close with will be willing to come on here because they would give us instant kind of show credibility and like some pop and some buzz. You know what I mean? But go ahead and say what you're gonna say.
I'm really not amazed. I was just agreeing with what you were saying mostly, but I do want to say when we're talking about bringing it from the foundation, and I want to say if there's anyone out there who's just like us, who's not a legislator or a activist or something like that, who has a relevant opinion, you know what I'm saying? I ain't talking about if you want to get on here and just rant and scream all of your conspiracy theories all over.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? But if you got some pertinent information, you know what I'm saying, that you'd like to come and give out to the world, you know what I'm saying, I'd be willing to have a conversation with you. I'm sure you would too.
And there are perfect
You know
things
what
in
I'm saying?
politics right now that need that. Like when we talk about elections, you know, one of my really good friends, like along the way that I became good friends with as a legislator, is Adrian Southworth, and you know her election integrity is something that's big to her. But I keep telling her the problem is like we ain't the public. We're trying to fix the problem before we are explaining the issue to people.
This is what I was going to say, and I'm sorry. It just came back to me.
Yeah.
Because this is what you've been hitting on. I think it's going to sum it up really good. You got to quit championing the selections that are out there and select a champion.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I feel like we've turned this whole thing in. First off, I would call it shenanigans.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Which it shouldn't be. It should be a very organized and structured thing to get done what the people want to get done. And we should be, instead of, like you were saying, instead of funneling through the candidates, why aren't we funneling through the ideas?
Yeah.
Let's get all the bases correct on where we stand, and then we'll pick someone who stands with us instead of finding someone to stand with. Like I don't want to walk. If there's 5 people in the room, I don't want to have to walk in the room and pick from the 5 people. I want to walk in the room and I want the 5 people to pick from me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and there are other political groups that are coming from this angle.
For
There's
sure,
like the Kentucky
100%.
Liberty Caucus, the guy that's running the. I'm
Was
getting
it
good
the
friends with him.
Forward Party?
But they send out what?
The Forward Party?
No, I don't think.
I said, have you looked at?
I haven't looked into them. No, but like I know they send out a survey, and then you submit it back, and like
Decent.
if the answers are correct, then you're considered a Liberty candidate. But like
Okay.
there ain't no. It's
not
like
a terrible idea.
But they don't support you unless you know.
Right.
And so like, but
that's not a terrible
But
idea.
then like
at all.
extrapolating out past that is like, okay, then once you get elected or once you're selected as a a leader of the community or whatever, you don't have to be an elected official. The minute you start venturing away from that, and like you aren't upholding your promise of
standards
like
to what you're doing.
and like of what you said you're going to do. Right now we're attaching to people, so then it's like we're calling out that person, and that person has the power to like shout you down. But if we're about ideas and principles, we're calling out we're just replacing the actor. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
And so
for
it's
sure.
not as personal, and like the
Yeah, I agree with that.
and the money ain't flowing to a person; it's flowing to like. You know,
And it leaves room for the idea to change, because what happens a lot of times, I think, like we were saying earlier, the road to hell is paved in
Good
paved in
intentions,
gold,
yeah.
right? Good intentions. That's what you said. Look, I don't know that one. Like I said earlier, neither here nor there on that. But this I am here with. If you're able to get the ideas to move fluidly, then the people will move with them. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the problem. Like, since we're not attached to the idea, like that was one of the reasons for me personally, I could never attach onto the idea of Donald Trump. Because for me and for a lot of people I know, you know what I'm saying, there were things that he did that we didn't have a problem with or nothing like that. I mean, I know at least 20 people right now off the top of my head I could name drop who would be like, shit, I'd vote for him again because he got my uncle or my cousin or my dad or my brother or whatever released from prison early. Or, you know what I'm saying, they got some time knocked off their sentence. You know what I'm saying? Plenty of people. Now, does that make him a great person? No. Does it make him a great person to the person who needed that deed done? Absolutely. And would I blame them for voting for that? Absolutely not. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because I may vote for something very well for that reason.
Yeah. Well, so to piggyback off that, and then we can kind of wrap up. Now you got to get home, but like
For sure.
one of the disconnects I think for Trump, because I'll tell everybody like I voted for Donald Trump both times, and like I call myself a Trumpkin and all stuff because it's the idea of him is what I'm. It's like
For sure. I can definitely see what I'm voting
like
for.
the barrier he knocked down was a barrier that would. Now, me and you sitting here together doing a show like this doesn't even seem like out of the question, because Trump was like just like the biggest stereotype of, you know what I mean, just like the ceiling breaker to make it okay for normal people to talk. And so, but what I also says, he did these good things. Now, some of this was the media not getting it out there, and like the podcasting world not being popular enough yet, because he didn't have normal people like us to go out here and say that had street cred and be like, here's what's happening on the ground. Here's what he just did. Here's how it affects our lives, and here's what's happening. It couldn't get out there effectively because the people that were trying to talk about it being a good thing didn't really understand why it was good, because they didn't have anybody in the system. They'd never like, you know what I mean? Unless you've had somebody get released on parole, you don't know what it's like to know your buddy just got paroled and he got treated like a dog on his way out the door and didn't even know he was getting out till that morning, and then sat there on the curb on a bench for hours waiting on somebody to come. And that's how he started his new life. You don't have anybody that can know that.
For
you
sure.
can't know what you don't know. So like,
that's also partially his fault, though.
no, it is. No, it is. But it's like
I'm just saying that because that comes down to what we're talking about as being individuals, and that's why I want to make sure I get this in there. That comes down to knowing your role, knowing your place as an individual, knowing your impact, and being able to use it for what you're trying to do and for the betterment of everyone else, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is where he went wrong. You know what I'm saying? No, I'm neither anti nor with Trump. I don't really care either way. I didn't vote for him. I didn't vote for Hillary either. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm just saying, I made the point about him, about 20 people I know who know people who are released from prison, or maybe even themselves, you know what I'm saying? And then you made the point about people not being able to get the information because people are hiding it. You know what I'm saying? Well, this is where he went wrong in his individual approach. You act like a fucking jerk about it all the time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You got to know your role in this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's where it comes down to. And I hope that's the kind of thing that we can bring to this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Know your role, do your thing to the best of your ability, and hopefully people will take grass to that. You know what I'm saying? Or put grass to that, I should say. You know what I'm saying? Because we're just the dirt composite. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're not even the topsoil.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We're just here, just trying to have a conversation.
Well, the good thing is in all this, I do feel like, so for me personally, and some of the things that I think are important, the last couple of months did establish some like connections and some strong relationships to where we can help. We're not straight up on the ground floor. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I've gotten some like street cred in those regards now, and I know some people that at least I can connect some of our goals with legislator wise and all that. But the more we can do that, and I feel like we expect our legislators to get up and talk so much instead of like echoing them and then letting them echo us. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And like, hopefully it's something else that we can do is not rely on them to say as much. We need to be saying it. They got to do it. We can't
100%.
vote. So I don't care what you say. Here's what we're talking about we want done. You can keep your mouth shut because you need to be able to like navigate these waters and like personal relationships with other legislators. How did you vote?
The people should be the formulation of the plan.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We formulate the plan. We are the ones who decide what should be and what should not be.
Yeah.
Based on what I know, I ain't no expert on the Constitution of the United States of America. I'll be the first person to admit that. But what I know of the document and what I know I've been taught and how I feel about this country that I live in, the state that I live in, and the people that live here among it with me is this: that the idea of freedom is that it's an idea. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Which means unless you're exercising it, it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Unless you're exercising, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And it's our job as a people to formulate the plan because that's how we got it. We formulated the idea. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's up to the people we put in charge to implement it.
But it's up to us to organize.
It's up to us to hold them accountable.
Instead of bringing them an abstract
it should
conceptual
be a
idea.
plan.
Here's a formulated
It's a plan.
strategy. Here's what we want.
That's why you use the
Like,
formulation.
Yeah, formulate. You're right about that. Because right now, what happens is, and it's like I had this conversation with people. They'd be like, "Hey, we need you to mobilize your coalition to like. We need emails in support of this." Sounds like, whoa, like
No,
we need an email farm, brother. I'm just gonna tell y'all like. The reason what I'm doing is working is because the people know what's going on, and I'm just executing what I know they want done.
It's because
They ain't following
you're
me.
getting real feedback.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Real feedback isn't I heard what you said. Real feedback is I know what you said and I feel you. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Are you listening or do you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm sure you've heard that.
Yeah, well, and it's one of those deals like, here's another way to kind of contextualize what you're saying is like there are certain people, this is like empathy, and this is like the difference between like empathy and sympathy. Like empathy is like you see somebody in the gutter, you get in the gutter with them, and you help get them out.
Exactly.
Sympathy is you see somebody in the gutter, and you look down and you tell them like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry you're in the gutter.
I could help you.
I'm so sorry you're in the gutter. I wish I could help you. I don't have another umbrella."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so right now I think a lot of people see sympathy as empathy. And like to me, empathy is action. You know what I mean? Like
for sure.
It is identifying problems, putting it into action. So, and then also realizing that everybody can't do everything. So one thing I hope I'm able to help facilitate is, you know, we're people. I'm good at connecting dots and telling a story. You know, I mean that's that hillbilly in us. We're good storytellers, and you know we can't read and write real well, so we gotta be able to tell stories. We gotta pass them down.
There's always the exception to the rule. I can read and write very well.
I can write. I can write well. I can't read very well. I think, but like, what was I just saying? I lost my thought there.
Doesn't matter. I got you.
You see what I'm saying though.
Yeah. Oh no, exactly what you're saying. don't be the crab in the bucket. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Be a cog in the machine.
Okay, yeah.
That's what you were saying.
Yeah, but also like, as far as like
don't be that person.
realize we all can't do everything. We can't get in the weeds of every topic. We got to build a community large enough to where we can put people in the right spots. You know, me and you, we are athletes. You know what I mean? That's why football is such a microcosm of like life. Is because
Sure.
like everybody has a purpose, and if that guard don't pull,
Right.
that trap don't work.
Right.
I don't care who you got in the backfield.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And so
100%.
like so everybody has a role to play. They got to do their job. Like, you know, if we get into this and it's political and election integrity is your thing, we got to, like, for a lot of those people, you ain't the storyteller because you're going to become, you're kind of conspiratorial. You know what I mean? Like, you like to
Right.
go down those rabbit holes. So we got to get the right people in there that can do that research.
And every election should be safe.
Get it to someone who can tell the story about how there's issues and how do we fix them. Same thing with education. Like, you might be someone who is great at identifying problems and developing
solve it.
strategies, but then because you're unwilling to change your messaging, you can't effectively impact change because you want critical race theory to be the word that is used.
Or maybe you're not good at following through.
Yeah, or well, that's another topic. So like, but like, I feel like that's for me. The thing I was good at down there, and this is it's really like when I tell people, it's really, if there's anything I'm willing to give myself props on, is this. Like, I understand people's, like, the psychology of how people work, and like how to tell a story, and how to like call out BS from like real talk, and like I'm willing to call spade a spade. And so you got to find people that can tell your story effectively and get the strategy you developed implemented.
You're also a person, and you have to be this person, a person that's willing to admit defeat, because you're going to be defeated. I'm not talking about defeat as in giving up. That's not what I mean. I'm talking about, you said call a spade a spade. If someone tells you who they are, you believe them. You know what I'm saying? You don't try to change their mind. What you do is you give them better information and allow them to do what they will with it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because the latter is combative. Well, the former is combative, I should say. When you try to change someone's mind, you're immediately showing aggression.
Yeah.
I don't think people really recognize that, you know. And I'm not sitting trying to act like I'm like a microaggression person or nothing like that, because I don't even know nothing about that. I just know it's a term that came up recently in the last couple of years. But I know that would be like one thing that people would like to try to make a microaggression. And I'm not talking about those types of things, but I'm talking about like real, literal humanity. Like, how many times have you ever won a conversation with someone when you were trying to change what they thought already?
Yeah.
Probably very few. You know what I'm saying? I can't think of any. Like, I mean, like I said earlier, you're married, I'm married. You know what I'm saying? Get into a spat with your wife and try to change her mind and see how that comes out. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Shit's turning into an argument. You might be on the couch later. You know, it's just how it is.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be good tomorrow because you love each other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You're a family. But it just don't work.
Yeah.
You just give out the information, let them go through their whatever they're going through, and then you resolve it.
Yeah. Well, a minute ago you talked about the work. Like, when I started doing this stuff in Frankfurt, eventually it's got to the point where like I realized, like, yeah, this is hard work, but man, it's meaningful. Like, satisfying. Like, and like you're making a difference. You know, I mean, I think people at the end of the day want to feel like they're a part of something.
For sure.
And like I do feel like right now today we have an opportunity, and it's been building for a while. You know, I mean, we talked about how we're even friends, and like how like culture had to change in a different way, like in the 90s, to make it to where we even could, you know, have the crossover we did. But like this now is it's
Never
time.
been a better time.
It's time.
Never
you know
been
what I
a
mean?
better
Like
time.
the opportunity is there, and like the powers that be don't want us to grab a hold of it, because then we'll really we actually will have some power as a people. None of us will individually own it. Like George Bush won't own it no more. Donald Trump won't own it. Ronald
Yeah.
Reagan won't own it.
Elon Musk, Bill
like
Gates.
Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg,
Yeah.
they won't own it.
Yeah, for sure.
Neither
100%.
will we.
Right.
And so, like, that's one thing I know we want to do is we're football players. The work itself is what excites me. I
agree.
People we think we don't like hard stuff, but man, when you embark on a hard journey, when you go to football camp, you hate it. You hate football camp all the time you're there. Now as a grown man, I look back and I'm like, dude, I really that was
Some
hard.
of my best memories.
That was hard.
I got some good stories.
And I did it. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to be a self-confident person,
for sure.
And so again, it starts when you're young. When you're in school, it starts when you're in football camp. But then it starts getting through college. You'll not quit.
Use a pencil.
Not quitting something when you start it. You know what I mean? Like you're finishing out the season before like that kind of stuff. And so, the main thing I'm promising to y'all right now is we're willing to put in the certain types of work so that y'all won't have to. You know what I mean? So like, we're gonna put in the work, give y'all the information. We hope to arm the citizens of the state, our communities, and we're going to put ourselves in vulnerable positions, and it's going to take a lot of it's going to be exhausting. You know what I mean? Like
Absolutely.
it's going to it really is a transformation. It's like this last couple months I feel like I was a drug addict that hit rock bottom.
Whoa.
You know what I mean? And
I'm glad you said that.
I hit rock bottom as a man and realized oh my God, and but it's been a beautiful thing because I started from nothing and I was just open to the possibilities. You know what I mean? Go ahead. I know this is
9 minutes. No, we got 9 minutes. So I just want to put this in there because you said something great right there, which a lot of people in this state will understand. You know what I'm saying? You said you felt like you hit rock bottom, but it was a great feeling. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think people really understand what that mentality really feels like amongst the working class of people. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to be a whole nother subject, a whole nother day, but I want to hit on it right now because it's something that's near and dear to my heart. I'm sure probably to yours and most people in this state. Is that most of the people in this state, in the community, are just hard working people. You know, just trying to get by, trying to do what they can do to see another day above ground and create some kind of good amongst themselves, their community, their family. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Just put that out there. So when I think about that, I just think about what this show can do, and I think about how these conversations are going to change. These conversations are going to change the landscape of when you're dropping your kid off at school and you're sitting in that long ass 40-minute semicircle that every school on the planet has. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You know that circle I'm talking about. You're sitting out there. You got there 30 minutes early because you thought you were there 10 minutes before everybody else. It was already 100 people had the same idea.
Yeah.
You'll just be thinking that those people are doing the same thing that you're doing, not that those people are Trump supporters or Hillary or Obama supporters, or that one of them's anti-abortion and the other one's for it. One of them is big bank and the other one's little bank, because those things don't matter to you. You know what I'm saying? Those things don't matter to you. And if they do matter to you, then good for you. You know what I'm saying? And keep handling those issues the best way you can. But I don't think that's what we're here for. You know what I'm saying? It's not what I'm here for.
It's definitely not.
You know what I'm saying?
Not.
So I'm saying that to say for the people that are watching, when we're sitting in those lines, we're thinking about other things. What are we thinking about? We're thinking about, I got $40. Friday, 2 days.
We got to make rent.
You know what I'm saying? Friday's 2 days. I need to feed 3 kids. Johnny's got a field trip on Friday. I don't really want to let him down. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
We got 2 games on Saturday. Both of those are in London. You know what I'm saying? These aren't my things. You know what I'm saying? But even if they were, you know what I'm saying? Like, I've been in those situations. And I might be in one of those situations tomorrow for all I know. You know? But real life In real life, what matters is what is pertinent.
Yep. Well, and why those moments occur, and I think it's what I talk about hitting rock bottom. It was like I had some revelations occur to me, and I'm like, one reason those moments happen all the times is because we allow ourselves to live minute by minute, because we think we deserve Netflix or Hulu, we think we deserve whatever. And it's like, no, life is a gift. We all have these minutes. We get 24 hours a day. We all get that amount. Like, certain people are going to use them a certain way. Like, we gotta start using our time wisely and getting ahead of the game.
I agree with that.
You know what I mean? Like, don't be thinking about why you're like. Don't be looking back on your marital issues necessarily.
Right.
Let's acknowledge them, and let's start thinking about how to make it better.
Facts.
And then you got to execute. You know what I mean? And so, like, I don't think people realize how these things we're talking about extrapolate into our lives, because we don't even know what other people are thinking about. And one day we'll get down to this on like what got me started in this on this process. It was back in November, and my beautiful, wonderful angel wife like said something to me that like broke me down in the kitchen and got me crying, because like I thought I was hard, and I thought I was tough, and like I was being the opposite of what I was saying I wanted to be in life. And had she not said it to me, I may not have done it. You know, and like it was like God put the words in her mouth. You know, and so like we're trying to arm each other and our communities and the people around us to like make their lives better. And that for some of us, it's going to lead to political implications. Other people, it's going to be community implications. It might lead some of you to become youth coaches. Teachers, whatever, you know what I mean? Because
maybe you just be the candy lady.
But it's like we think everything is a product of one other thing, when really life is a hodgepodge of like just like problems. You know what I mean? We're never gonna solve everything. There's always gonna be something else. And so like let's admit that, and let's make the problem and the desire to correct it and the work that will be necessary to do that, let's try to make that the fun part.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like the result will be the result. But if you put in the work, this is why you can not win a game in a football season and you come out the other end and 20 years later, you don't even remember how many games you won or lost. You just remember the relationships if you did it the right way and you put in the work 100%. And you were there for your teammates and you like left it all on the field. Like sometimes you just make the wrong decision.
Nobody remembers the winning moment.
Yeah, sometimes someone else is just better than you were. You know what I mean? Like, and so again, we're talking about big deal stuff, and I got people popping in my head that I want to bring on that I just think are great individuals that have been in my life that aren't even like necessarily prominent, but like they, again, we have to put a spotlight on the like normalness of humanity and how that's like what's beautiful about it, and that like we can still play a big part in this. So I know we got to wrap up. You got to do you want to end up?
I'll end it up. I'll wrap it up.
I'm gonna say something after you get done. Just go ahead and say your last one.
But just to kind of extend on what you were saying there, we definitely want to put an emphasis on regular is not the word. I don't want to use regular, but extraordinary is not the word either. Although I feel like every person is extraordinary, but being able to show people that what you think is regular in your everyday life, or what you think is insignificant, I should say, isn't that. It's actually just like everyone else's shit. And it's just like everyone else's struggle, and they're trying to get through the same types of things. Now, it may be a different necessary path that they're on, and maybe a different scenario, but the outcome of what we were talking about earlier, would you the 3 F's? Family,
faith, family, freedom.
Faith, family, freedom. You know, faith for me is different than yours.
Different faiths, but there's still
faith,
faith
nonetheless.
Yeah.
Nonetheless,
you got faith in something.
I got faith in myself, and I got faith in humanity, and I got faith in the fact that when called upon, people will always step up to the occasion. I do have faith in that. You just got to make sure you got the right person, the right people. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because there are plenty of falters out here. You know what I'm saying? There's plenty of us who might just cur out.
There's demagogues and power hungry people out there. You know what I
But
mean?
there's a whole lot of people who are willing to throw themselves in the fire just for one person to make it.
Well, see, and
You know
most
what I'm
people
saying?
don't want to be the president or the governor.
No,
But like, no one's coming to them and saying, "Here's how." Like, all right,
still help.
You want to help. And here's what we could. Here's a list of things that we could use. Which of these things is your strong suit?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
people would feel so valuable from that. So,
For sure, 100% agree with
so
that.
yeah. So I'll wrap up actually on that
Take us
on
out.
that moment. So I don't even know how long we've went here. So thanks all you guys for watching. We've talked a lot about normal, average, everyday people. All right, but we all can be extraordinary. We talked about that. If any of y'all know anybody that you all have had conversations similar to in the same vein as what we've been talking about here, and you think if they'd be valuable to bring into the conversation, shoot us a DM or Facebook message or DM or something. You know what I mean? Like, just letting us know who those people are. Some contact information. Comment on these. Let's get the conversation rolling. Comment on these posts. Share the YouTube video. You can find me on Twitter at Way WAY the number 2 much JRMC on Twitter. I think it's the same thing on Instagram, stuff like that. We're going to get this show, like our show between John and I, we're going to get its own channel. But right now, we're going to post them on the channel. We already have people on here. But look, let's all stop assuming that people don't need us as individuals.
Right.
Like, you gotta subscribe to the channel. You gotta like it. You gotta share it. You gotta put your name on the line if you believe in something. You can't expect everyone else to hang on the cross and you not be willing to even
Stand there and watch.
to stand there and watch. You know what I mean? Like, there are people that are willing to be on that cross, but like,
Sure.
we should never expect that person to.
Somebody's got to carry him up there too, though.
But we should never expect anyone to be up there alone. You know what I mean? We should all be
Sure.
fighting to be on there with each other.
For
You know
sure.
what I mean? Ain't none of us
100%.
Jesus, ain't none of us that powerful. And like, the minute one of us thinks that we are, that's when we need to be booted out the door. You know what I mean?
100%.
So like, subscribe, all that stuff, comment. Let's get the conversation started. So if you know people that you think would be a good part of the conversation, let us know. Anybody who thinks they could add value to the show, like from a technological standpoint, from a or has
Any standpoint.
suggestions, whatever. Look, we are trying to walk it like we talk it.
For sure.
Tell us, all right?
Yeah.
We are just trying. We're trying something here that again. Go out there and Google everything we're talking about. You will not find another show that's trying to do this, and it's. I don't understand it. You know what I mean? Like, it's honestly kind of scary.
I understand it. We'll talk about it later.
Like, I wish there would have been other ones out there like this, so we wouldn't have thought we were like good enough to do it. You know what I mean? But right now it's just about we're just trying to get it. There's got to be one.
Right.
So again, thanks for watching. Again, I'm JRMC. This is Pink. Thanks for giving us your time, and y'all have a good rest of your day. And we'll holler back at y'all soon. Love you guys.
Thank you, y'all.